NASCAR is unique when compared to many other motorsports titans such as IMSA, IndyCar, and definitely F1. The biggest difference is the lack of international presence on the grid, but it's kind of understandable. Beyond the States, the only feasible way to climb the motorsports ladder is through karting, and just hoping that the tens of thousands of dollars you invested in that program pays off. And karting really only leads you into one direction, internationally speaking. And at the very least, it definitely doesn't lead you to drive 200-mile-per-hour bricks across the United States. Yet some drivers found a successful path in the premier motorsports series of America. And so in this video, we'll talk about these anomalies who defied conventional odds. Getting to NASCAR is one thing, but being good in it is a whole other ballgame. 6 countries have produced the NASCAR winner in the top 3 series. Home of one of the raciest touring car championships in the world, let's head over to the land down under and see what kind of talent they can boast. Marcos Ambrose is the only Australian to have won in the NASCAR Cup Series and the Xfinity Series. Son of Ross Ambrose, he took the traditional route to get to the top of motorsports, karting in the hope that one day he'd land in Formula One. After some time in Europe in the late 90s and early 2000s, he realized that he didn't even have the budget to continue. He came back home and decided to run in the Australian V8 Supercar Series, the highest and most economical form of motorsports in Australia. He was very successful in it, winning 2 titles and a handful of races. However, after 2005, he wanted to make the move to NASCAR. More money, better quality of life, who wouldn't want to? Plus, he was a 2-time Australian V8 Supercars champion. What else did he have left to prove? It was totally out of left field, and the chances of him being remotely successful were slim. Before him, the only Australians to have strapped behind the wheel of a NASCAR stock car were Frank Gardner, who blew an engine on lap 2 at Rockingham in 1968, Robin Best, Charlie O'Brien, Jeff Brabham, Dick Johnson, Terry Bryars, and Alan Grice. The most starts an Australian ever made in NASCAR was 7. Forget about being competitive, let's worry about survival. Ambrose had one thing that helped his odds: factory backing. You see, he was a Ford factory driver, so he was able to get a ride with the Wood brothers for a truck seat beginning at round 4 for Martinsville in 2006. He did solid enough that season to allow him to run full-time in Xfinity in 2007. How'd he do? Well, he was the 5th highest driver in points who wasn't a full-time Cup Series driver. And had David Reagan not been racing, it would have been Ambrose who won Roadie. 8th in points isn't bad, and he didn't take off the next season, finishing 10th in points. By this time, it was looking like he had a legitimate career going for himself. In 2008, he moved to JGG Daugherty, which allowed him to run full-time in Cup for them beginning in 2009. Taki Scheckter had been in the sport for a while, mainly helping sell sponsorship, but also operating a team. He hadn't really gotten serious about this whole Cup deal until Ambrose ran well in Xfinity for them. And by run well, I mean win. He got his first career win beating Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Matt Kenseth. The next year, the same thing happened at the same place. And in 2010, it happened again. In 2011 and 2012, he won at Watkins Glen in the Cup Series, scoring his only 2 wins. You might as well rename Watkins Glen to Ambrose Glen because he knew the ins and outs of the joint. His only non-Watkins Glen win in the ranks of NASCAR was a one-off at Canada in 2011. But every other one, and his final win in 2014, came at the New York road course. Other than that, he was a solid top 20 driver week in and week out. He had talent, but it wasn't like he was anybody extraordinary. He realized that too, and after some years of road course fun, he pulled out of NASCAR for good at the end of 2014. But the Australian legacy lives on beyond the Tasmanian Devil. Owen Kelly ran Watkins Glen for Phoenix Racing in 2013, making it the first time 2 Australians competed in one NASCAR race. And James Davison took a brief NASCAR excursion for Spire and Rick Ware Racing between 2020 and 2021. Actually, he won a race in that time, albeit at the virtual Coda race. Looking ahead, it's possible Daniel Ricciardo could make a one-off with Project 91 and Trackhouse. Well, it's scorching hot down there, so why don't we cool off just a bit and head to a country you're least expecting a racing driver to come out of. The gateway to South America. Colombia has produced one NASCAR winner, and it's a name that's quite familiar with most newer NASCAR fans, Juan Pablo Montoya. After a fairly successful F1 career, Montoya left the series to join NASCAR. A few starts at the end of 2006 gave him the itch to do it full-time in Cup beginning in 2007. What would follow is 1 win in the Busch Series in Mexico, another win at Sonoma in the Cup Series, 3 top 5s and 6 top 10s, placing him a very respectable 20th in points when all was said and done. He dropped off in 2008, finishing 25th in points, and then shot out of a cannon in 2009, scoring 7 top 5s and 18 top 10s, making him eligible for the chase. And it's not like he did bad in it. He finished 8th in points when all was said and done. He'd hover around the top 20 in points for the rest of his career, only backing into one more win at Watkins Glen in 2010. Montoya is known as one of the most versatile drivers in the world, having driven under so many different rules and regulations in different bodies of motorsports. And his fairly solid NASCAR stint only proves his ability to adapt from a light, aerodynamic open-wheel car. Well, while we're in South America, let's check out what the most well-known country in the continent has to offer. Okay. Technically, Nelson Piquet Jr. was born in Germany before he lived in Monaco for a bit, but anyway, son of three-time F1 champion Nelson Piquet, you knew he was destined to drive an F1 someday. His hike to the top of the F1 ladder was a tenuous one at that, but his wildest dreams came to fruition in 2008, driving for the Renault team. After 2 seasons of not really doing much in F1, he defected to NASCAR driving for Red Horse Racing for a one-off at Daytona, and he would finish 6th. He would get 3 more top 10s for Billy Ballew that year before Kevin Harvick tapped him to drive full-time in the Truck Series in 2011. He would get 6 top 5s and 10 top 10s, placing him 10th in the points. And with Turner Motorsports in 2012, he would get 2 wins at Michigan and Las Vegas, as well as 7 more top 5s and 13 more top 10s, coupled with 4 poles. A 7th place points finish more than proved he was ready to take the next step, the Nationwide Series. He already amassed a nationwide win the previous season at Road America, so expectations were high heading into 2013. He was okay at best, managing to get 5 top 10s and finish 12th in points. However, a lack of sponsorship spelled the end of his full-time NASCAR career. Well, hovering around or under the equator was fun, but let's get our heads above the water and head north to a country known for its motorsports culture. The only driver that has been able to squeak out a win for the nation is someone who isn't even Italian anymore, Mario Andretti. You see, Andretti's win in NASCAR came before he acquired American citizenship, and because it came before, he makes a video. If Juan Pablo Montoya is one of the most versatile drivers of all time, then Mario Andretti is the most versatile driver of all time. 12 wins and a championship in Formula 1, a class win in Le Mans, a boatload of IndyCar wins highlighted by an Indy 500 and 4 IndyCar championships, as well as a Daytona 500 win in NASCAR. Andretti's NASCAR career is brief, only making sporadic appearances between 1966 and 1969, and his only successful run was the 1967 Speed Weeks at Daytona. He finished 6th in his duel, his best finish by a mile in NASCAR up until that point, before he dominated the Daytona 500, leading 112 laps, edging out Fred Lorenzen and 48 other drivers attempting to etch their name in the history books. To this day, he's the only non-American to have won the Great American Race. Europe's a fun section of the globe, but let's cross the Atlantic and check to see what Mexico has to offer. Monterrey, Mexico's finest in Daniel Suarez has swept quite a bit of confetti Mexico's way. Beginning in 2002 in go-karts, Suarez immediately showed he had the talent and the drive. In 2007, he won a class championship, and in the 2008 Mexican mini stocks, he became the youngest winner in the series at age 16. In 2010, he won Rookie of the Year in the NASCAR Mexico Series, and followed that up in 2011 by scoring 3 poles and a podium, finishing 9th in the standings. In 2012, he led the points for most of the season, and entered the final race of the year in contention for the championship, but wound up finishing 3rd, having scored 2 victories. He then made the leap to NASCAR, beginning in the K&N Pro Series in 2013 for Rev Racing. He scored 6 top 5s and 9 top 10 finishes on his way to 3rd in the championship standings. In 2014, he won the first 2 races of the season, and this was enough to catch Joe Gibbs' attention, who tapped him to make his Xfinity debut at Richmond, where he ultimately finished a solid 19th. This allowed him to run full-time for them in 2015. He was pretty good, especially for a rookie. 8 top 5s and 18 top 10s, as well as 3 poles, is a stepping stone to success. In 2016, he notched 3 wins, 19 top 5s, and 27 top 10s, en route to becoming the first and so far only international driver to have won a championship in the top 3 series of NASCAR. Well, the talent is there, no doubt, so why don't we let him spend another year to refine it before moving him up to Cup? And there goes those plans. With Carl Edwards leaving, Suarez was rushed into the Cup Series, and as you already know, he wasn't that great. A fringe playoff driver with Joe Gibbs Racing and Stewart Haas Racing relegated him to riding around in circles with Gaunt Brothers, which in turn led him to his current abode at Trackhouse Racing. While 2021 was a year full of inconsistency, 2022 has proved to be a breakout year for him. He scored his first win a few weeks ago at Sonoma, and has 3 top 5s and 5 top 10s to back it up. It's safe to say the Mexican flag is in good hands for years to come. However, Suarez isn't the only Mexican currently racing. Max Gutierrez from Mexico City won an ARCA East race at New Smyrna and finished in 4th for the 2021 season. This past week at Nashville, he took an underfunded AM racing truck and plopped it into the top 10. Top 10! 8th to be more specific. Before both of these drivers, there was Carlos Contreras, a regular in the Truck Series who scored 5 top 10s in his time. Well, we peeked underneath the North American cupboard, but what if we take a peek above it? Honestly, in my opinion, Canada is one of the most successful countries when it comes to producing international winners in NASCAR. Not because of the quantity of their wins, but the quantity of their winners and drivers. Around 100 Canadians have taken the green flag for a NASCAR Sanctioned Series race, with only 5 currently racing, including ARCA. Notables include Cameron Haley, Alex Tagliani, Patrick Carpentier, Mario Gosselin, team owner for Xfinity team DGM Racing, and DJ Kennington. But of these dozens, only a handful have ever won. Born in Fortune Bridge on Prince Edward Island, Earl Ross started his racing career in the late 1960s, driving hobby cars before moving to a late-model stock car for the McKitchen brothers at Delaware Speedway. In 1973, he went to his first Daytona 500 race, and later Carling O'Keefe Brewery decided to run a car in the race with Earl Ross driving for them. He accepted, practiced, and learned from Donnie Allison. This leads us to Earl Ross's only NASCAR win, which came at Martinsville Speedway on September 29, 1974. After qualifying 11th, Ross beat Buddy Baker to the line by more than a lap, thus making him the first and still the only Canadian to have ever won a Winston Cup event. The most successful Canadian in NASCAR was Ron Fellows. Born in Windsor, Ontario, he not only holds a record for most wins by a Canadian, but most wins by any international driver. There wasn't one thing that directed Fellows to NASCAR. He had road course experience from IMSA and Le Mans, and this was more than enough for him to get road course opportunities. Back in the 2000s, most part-time teams saw an opportunity to taste clean air with drivers that had road course prowess. Seeing a Nemco Motorsports Chevy and a Hendrick Chevy Federer Defender was only possible at these joints. Fellows finished second twice in the Cup Series in the aforementioned Nemco team in 1999 and DEI in 2004. His last race in the Cup Series was 2013 at Watkins Glen. I mentioned he finished second with Nemco in Cup, but he won up that in Xfinity. In 1998, in only his second Xfinity start, he won. The next year, he got a pole at the same place, Watkins Glen. In 1999, he won again, and in 2000, same thing. 3 wins and only 5 starts in NASCAR is impressive to say the least. After spending a couple more seasons with Nemco, he left to join KHI between 2006 and 2007. And in 2008, he joined his longtime friend's team, Junior Motorsports. He also got his first win in Canada, a track that he long wanted to wave the red maple leaf over. Moving down to the Truck Series, he collected 2 wins there for Hess Racing in 1997 at, you guessed it, Watkins Glen, and won in 1999 at Watkins Glen for Nemco. What is up with road course ringers excelling at the Glen? Fellows was just the second Canadian to win an Xfinity race. The first, Larry Pollard. Pollard began his racing career as a stock car racer in Victoria during the 1970s. At the beginning of the 80s, Pollard became a pit crew member in the Winston West Series for driver Roy Smith. After 2 years with Smith, Pollard went to the Busch Grand National Series and continued his pit crew career for Ricky Rudd in 1982. Between 1982 and 1984, Pollard was a pit crew chief for Richard Petty, before ending his crew chief career with Phil Parsons in 1985. As a NASCAR driver, Pollard competed in the Busch Grand National Series from 1985 to 1990, while appearing in 4 races during the 1987 NASCAR Winston Cup Series season. While in the Busch Series, he won the 1987 Busch 200 at Langley Speedway and became the first non-American driver to win a Busch Series event. At the 1988 Budweiser 200 at Dover, Pollard crashed into a wall during the 195th lap and acquired a basilar skull fracture. After coming out of a coma, Pollard returned to racing during the 1989 NASCAR Busch Series season and had his final race in 1990. Now let's head back down to the Truck Series so we can talk about the 2 most recent winners from the country. Born in Niagara, Ontario, Stuart Friesen caught the racing bug mainly because his family owned a racetrack in New York. This allowed him to race go-karts and big blocks for a bit, before pursuing a dirt career. He was one of the top competitors in the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, winning over 230 career races as of the end of the 2017 season. His accolades in dirt are seemingly endless. But all this to say, he eventually met Chris Larson, who gave Friesen his first NASCAR ride at Eldora Speedway, which was supposed to be a one-time deal. However, they would end up running a few more races in 2016, which led him to running full-time in 2017. There, he recorded 2 top 5s and 5 top 10s. He improved in 2018 with 9 top 5s and 16 top 10s, placing him 7th in the points. His consistency would lead him to get all the way into the Championship 4 in 2019. That year, he also collected his first 2 wins in the trucks at Eldora and Phoenix. Beginning in 2020, they ran Toyotas, and let's just say the first year didn't get off to the best of starts. However, he improved for 2021, finishing 6th in points, and thus far, he's looking like a dark horse championship favorite with a win already under his belt. And that leads us to Rafael Lessard. Lessard started racing in an old Honda Civic, winning his first race on the day of his 12th birthday. He then ran Quebec Sportsmen and Super Late Models in Canada before moving to America. His first American racing experience came in the Car Super Late Model Tour, driving the 2015 season for Toyota Racing Development and David Gilliland Racing. In 2016, at age 15, he became the second non-American to win the Car Super Late Model Series championship, the other being Mario Gazzelin, also a Canadian from Quebec, who accomplished the feat in 1997. In 2017, he debuted in ARCA driving for Venturini Motorsports. He made the top 10 in his second start at Winchester Speedway. On February 15, 2019, it was announced that Lessard would drive 3 races in the number 46 Toyota Tundra for Kyle Busch Motorsports in the Truck Series. Lessard started 7th and finished 14th in his Truck Series debut at Martinsville. In June, he joined DJR Crossley's number 17 truck for the Iowa Speedway and Canadian Tire Motorsports Park races. In 2020, Lessard joined KBM for the full Truck Series season in the number 4 Tundra. Despite missing the playoffs, he won his first career truck race at Talladega when he was leading when the caution came out on the final lap, becoming the first French-Canadian to win in a NASCAR National Series race. He finished 12th in that year's points, so it came as no surprise when he got the boot. After being let go by KBM, he moved to GMS to drive the number 24. The plans initially outlined a 12-race schedule before it was increased to the full season. However, 7 races into the season, trouble arose. His sponsors didn't want to cross the border to activate their deal, so they bailed and Lessard was left without a seat. In 2022, he planned to run with SQR Development, a startup Xfinity team by a former NASCAR Sturton Parker. But let's just say that didn't go to plan either. Of course, we have to talk about the Canadians currently running in NASCAR. There's Amber Balkin, an ARCA driver running full-time for Rhett Jones Racing, 2017 Pinty's champion Alex Labay, who drives full-time for DGM Racing, still winless. Man, the 2020 Roval race hurts. But he does have 11 top 10s in his career. Jason White also drives part-time for the Room Brothers, and Jack Villeneuve, who has so far run the Daytona 500 with Team Hesburgh. So, with all of that being said, which international personality do you like the most? What other country besides the US do you think is the most successful in NASCAR? Let me know in the comment section below, and until next time, this has been the news. I'll see you.